And greetings. Welcome to Maxims of Law, Part 9. Well, let's get right down to it. We left off last time on inheritance, heir, and descent. See also property rights, marriage, and wills. So, if everyone can see everything good, if we have good audio going, just give me a little heads up there in the chat and we'll get going here. So, let's start with inheritance, heir, and descent. It is not just to make an elder born a bastard after his death, who during his lifetime was accounted legitimate. Wow. Inheritance is a succession to every right which the deceased had. So it's a succession of every right. He who is in the womb is considered as born whenever his benefit is concerned. That comes from both Bouvier's and Black's law. Before we go any further, I just want to remind everyone that this is strictly for educational entertainment purposes only, not to be used for your personal, professional, legal, lawful advice in any way, shape, or form. Please don't use this for your business or any other kind of personal matters where it could affect you in any other way. Do it at your own risk and don't do this at home. Let's proceed. Not right, but season legal possession makes a stock from which the inheritance must descend. So this is it's not the right, but legal possession makes a stock. That's your stock from which the inheritance must descend. And as we read from before, that the descent is a right, but that right isn't the stock. The legal possession makes a stock from which the inheritance must descend. Not to be born and to be dead born are the same thing. Jeez. Fee simple, so called because fee is the same as inheritance. If you're listening here, because this gets to property also. A fee simple, so called because the fee is the same as inheritance, and simple is the same as lawful or pure. And thus fee simple is the same as a lawful inheritance or pure inheritance. And that's from Black's Law, 2nd edition. Greetings, Alan. Pleasure to have you here. All right, let's continue. Fee tail, an inheritance limited in a definite descent. The law favors the inheritance of a man. Children born under a legitimate marriage shall always follow the condition of the father, never that of the mother. This is pretty interesting here. Children born under a legitimate marriage shall always follow the condition of the father, never that of the mother. And we went over the maxims of condition earlier. So this is some pretty enlightening maxims we're going over here. Let us continue. Oh, I missed it here. Oh, geez, this gets even better. Let's continue on this one here. So, children born under a legitimate marriage shall always follow the condition of the father, never that of the mother. However, in the case of slaves and animals, the offspring follows the condition of the mother. Phew. So In the case of slaves and animals, the offspring follows the condition of the mother. Notice how they refer to the slaves and animals as offspring, yet the ones born under a legitimate marriage are referred to as children. All right, let's continue. That was a pretty deep maxim there. By the title of heirs come the heirs of heirs to infinity. That's interesting there, because it is a continuum, isn't it? By the title of heirs come the heirs of heirs to infinity. Hopefully so. Co-heirs are deemed as one body or person by reason of the unity of right which they possess. So there's a unity of right. By reason of unity of right they possess, they are deemed as one body or person, the co-heirs. A right growing to a possessor accrues to a successor. Once again, a right growing to a possessor accrues to a successor. Beautiful, the growth, the progress, the continuum of inheritance. What a concept, and the legal maxims behind it all give it a better perspective. An inheritance is either corporeal or incorporeal. Corporeal is that which can be touched and seen. Incorporeal is that which can neither be touched nor seen. We get some, hang on, I gotta refresh this chat here. Why is this thing always giving me a hard time? You have rights, cops have duties. Hello, and howdy to you too. All right, let's continue here. No one leaves a greater benefit to his heir than he had himself. That's another nice, interesting one there too. All right, let's continue on. All right. God alone makes the heir, not man. One may relinquish for himself and his heirs a right which was introduced for his own benefit. So one may relinquish for himself and his heirs a right to which was introduced for his own benefit. So if he is the benefactor, he may relinquish that right to his heirs. No one can at the same time be the heir and the owner of the same tenement. The right of survivorship for the benefit of commerce holds no place among merchants. Children are the blood of their parents, but the father and the mother are not of the blood of the children. Wow. So children are of the blood of their parents, but the father and the mother are not the blood of the children. A penal action is not given against an heir unless such heir is benefited by the wrong. That's from Black's second edition. Penal actions arising from anything of a criminal nature do not pass to their heirs, which we get into things like collective punishment. And I guess original sin could also creep into this concept here. He who provides for himself provides for his heirs. Black's second edition. All right, let us proceed. The heir is not to be bound in a penalty arising out of the wrongful act of the ancestor. It's another restatement of the previous. He is the lawful heir whom the marriage demonstrates. An heir minor under 21 years of age is not answerable, except in the matter of a dower. Oh, wow. The heir succeeds to the restitution, not the penalty. He who would not have been heir to the father of the deceased shall also be heir of the son. All sisters are, as it were, one heir to the inheritance. The presumption is in favor of legitimacy. Possession of a brother in fee simple makes the sister to be heir. Wow. I guess that's getting into slavery. Not too sure on that one. Let's continue. Okay, an heir is either by right of property or right of representation. So the heir is either by right of property, by owning the heir, or by right of representation. An heir is a part of his ancestor. The offspring of an illicit cohabitation are not reckoned among the children. He who is born outside of lawful matrimony or of an unlawful one follows the condition of the mother. A yearly increase goes to enhance the inheritance. Heir is a name or term of law. Son is a name of nature. So heir is a name or term of law. Son is a name of nature. A son in the mother's womb is part of the mother's vitals. Wow. It's pretty heavy stuff here. Let's continue. The greater inheritance comes to every one of us from right and the laws than from parents. So the greater inheritance comes to every one of us from rights and laws than from parents. All right, Stephen, I'm glad you made it out here. I try to mix up the time, see if we can reach as many people as we can for the live ones. All right, let us proceed. No one is heir to the living. No one can be heir during the life of his ancestor. So I guess it can only be expected, but it can't be ascertained until the death. No one is presumed to have preferred another's posterity to his own. Okay. That's a nice measure of good faith there. And at that, let us proceed to the next one. Injury, damage, and harm. There may be damage or injury inflicted without any act of injustice. So that could be accidents, I believe. Let's continue. Not every loss produces an injury, gives a right of action. All right, let's read that again. Not every loss produces an injury. An example, gives a right of action. Injury is not presumed. Oh, here we go. An act of God injures no one. Nice excuse. Extreme law, rigor of law, is the greatest injury. Strict law is great punishment. He who does not repel an injury when he can, induces it. The government cannot confer a favor which occasions injury and loss to others. Now, this is an important one here. Did you catch this one there? You have rights, cops have duties. The government cannot confer a favor which occasions injury and loss to others. Confer a favor. Who could the government be conferring favors to? And when can those favors occasion an injury and loss to others? A personal injury does not receive satisfaction from a future course of proceeding. It is not left for its satisfaction to a future course of proceeding. So that's I guess that makes sense there. Personal injury does not receive satisfaction from a future course of proceeding. It is not left for its satisfaction to a future course of proceeding. The personal injury needs to receive satisfaction now. Let us proceed. No man can change his purpose to another's injury. Wow. No one is considered as doing damage unless he is doing what he has no right to do, which gets to be part of the distinction we read earlier about liberties and freedoms. He who suffers the damage by his own fault is not held to suffer damage. An injury is done to him of whom a reproachful thing is said, or concerning whom an infamous song is made. Oh, Lord. I think Weird Al might have some problems with that one, if he's still around. An injury extinguished by the forgiveness or reconcilement of the party injured. So, you can extinguish the injury by forgiveness or reconcilement of the party injured. According to the laws of nature, it is just that no one should be enriched through detriment and injury to another. An example, at another's expense. That's the laws of nature, by the way. Law is a rule of right, and whatever is contrary to the rule of right is an injury. Good stuff here. Let us proceed. It is for the interest of the state that a man should not enjoy his own property improperly to the injury of others. So back to our liberties here. It is for the interest of the state that a man should not enjoy his own property improperly to the injury of others, because it is the interest of the state to protect others from injury that are not harming others. So impropriety, doing things improperly too, causing injury to others, is the interest of the state. The act of the law does injury to no one. So the act of the law does injury to no one. Use your own property in such a manner so as not to injure that of another. Damage derived by consent is not a cause of action. An injury is not done to one who knows and wills it. All right. Beautiful stuff here. We're on to the next section here, which is, no, we're not. Next page. what constitutes right and what injury, it is the business of the law to declare. So what constitutes right and injury, what injury, right? That's the business of law, to declare. No one should be injured by that which has taken place between other parties. Collateral damage. From things to which one is accustomed, or in which there has been long acquiescence, no injury or wrong arises. Now, this is a restatement of one we read about consent, that the prolonged acquiescence is equivalent to consent, I believe. So from things to which one is accustomed, back to customs, right? From things to which one is accustomed, or in which there has been long acquiescence, a long silent approval, no injury or wrong arises. That's why it's important to speak up. An action is not given to one who is not injured. Extreme caution does no harm. Bodily injuries cannot be foreseen and guarded by means of provisos. I really like this one, 59X. I've heard this before, but this is so eloquently stated. Extreme caution does no harm. All right, and again, bodily injuries cannot be foreseen and guarded against by means of provisos. So again, their little mandates cannot protect bodily injuries. Let us proceed. Did I say that? All right, we're on to intention. Intent and intention. See also construction, which we did, and words. The intention of the party is the soul of the instrument. Ooh. That which is first in intention is last in operation. The intention amounts to nothing unless some effect follows. Words should be subordinate to the intention. It is to the intention that all law applies. Law always regards the intention, and that's from Black's Law, 2nd edition. Outward acts indicate the inward intent. Outward acts indicate the inward intent. Oh, man, this one's full of good maxims on this. Language is the exponent of the intention. The language of a statute or instrument is the best guide to the intention. So language is the exponent of the intention, meaning exponentially increasing the intention. The language should. The language of a statute or instrument is the best guide to the intention. Very deep meanings here now on intent and language and construction of statutes. Let's continue here. An action does not make one guilty unless the intention be bad. Bad intentions make one guilty. Your intention or disposition gives name or character to your work or act. A hidden intention is bad and disfavored in law. Previous intentions are judged by subsequent acts. Wow. Intentions ought to be subservient to or in accordance with the laws, not the laws to intention. Ooh, we got to read this one again. Intentions ought to be subservient to and in accordance with the laws, not the laws to the intentions. Laws aren't to be subservient to the intentions. Without the knowledge, without the knowledge, the intent cannot exist. So again, if the language of the laws are the exponent of the intentions, then this one makes sense. But if it's perverted, then that's where problems can happen. That's how we isolate root cause. So again, ignorance. Without knowledge, the intent cannot exist. This is ignorance of fact, isn't it? All right, let's continue here. An act does not make the doer of it guilty unless the mind be guilty. That is, unless the intention be criminal. The intent and the act must both concur to constitute the crime. So intent, act must be congruent to, or concurrent to constitute the crime. A reason cannot always be given for the intentions of our ancestors. Wow. All right, let's proceed on to the next section. Interpersonal relationship. We've already seen human nature, and then we'll be on to suits also later. No one ought to be enriched by another's loss. All right, we came over this earlier. It is difficult that one man should sustain the place of two. He who first offends causes the strife. Guys, get this one here? This is very important when one initiates conflict, when one initiates some type of disturbance. He who first offends causes the strife. He who first offends. No one should intermeddle with a thing that in no respect concerns him. Mind your own business comes to mind. No one can transfer more or greater right to another than he has himself. We heard this earlier, so there's another restatement of an earlier maxim. All right. When suspicion between men is suggested, it is easily entertained. Which brings us back to another maxim where reports of suspicion should be done by grave and honorable men, not malicious and malevolent people or persons. Impersonality neither concludes nor binds. The law favors mutual recompense. You ought to know with whom you deal. Transactions between strangers may benefit, but cannot injure those who are not parties to them. He who condemns the precept condemns the party giving it. A person ought not to be prejudiced by what has been done between others. So this is a common problem nowadays. Let's read this one again. A person ought not to be prejudiced by what has been done between others. No man can forfeit another's right. All right, let's continue. No man can forfeit another's right. All right, we got that one. A personal connection is equivalent to one's own interest. Nearness of blood is as good a consideration as one's own interest. So personal connection and nearness of blood. Wow. Personal things cannot be done by another. Can't delegate authority, right? Personal things follow the person. Personal things follow the person. Makes sense? Personal things die with the person. Whose is the advantage? His also. See, whose is the advantage? His also should be the disadvantage. A burdensome condition not to be brought upon one man by the act of another. So not to burden others, right? All right, at this point, it seems like we had a pretty good session here. I don't want to drag it out too long, and we'll be continuing next time on with invalid, void, and valid. And we'll see also annul and lawful. We already went over annul, and we're going to be going over invalid, valid, and void next. So at that, I want to thank you all for showing up tonight. It's been a great live stream here to go over these maxims of law, and I hope that everybody found the value that I did in this, because these are the not just common sense, but the condensed good sense of nations, the foundation of where all of our liberties, laws, and rights are expressed in the best of ways that are clearly understood by civilized peoples. So at that, I want to salute you all for putting the time in to go with me on this journey. Much love to you all for showing up, and I hope to see you all on the next one. Peace out.